home, went to the city.
Hey, this is Aaron at Power Popaholic, and today I am talking with Cyndi Dawson from the band The Cynz. How are you doing today, Cyndi?
I'm good. I'm good. It was a beautiful day here, and I spent the whole day out in my garden cleaning up from last year, so it was a good day.
Awesome, awesome. So you have a new album out. Can you tell me a little bit about the album?
I'm really proud of this album. This was a real labor of love. It's our first release on Gem Records, and it is autobiographical. And I say semi because um, it is about my life from the age of 17 to come to growing up, becoming more mature and responsible. But at the same time, as with most art, I used artistic license. Little Miss Lost. The title of the album would be me at 17, but the girl in the song, who is sort of me, is a little more wild than I actually was.
Okay. All right. Well, let me get that. First of all, let me tell you that I love the album. And whenever I hear a good female fronted power pop band, I get excited because it's been a male dominated genre. When I get a female led band that's really good, like Lisa Michaels or Tamar Burke, and I heard a little bit of the recent Kate Clover album, which sounds terrific. And then I hear you and the Cynz. I was like, wow, this is going to be a banner year. I hope you're just ushering it in. It's highly recommended on my highly recommended list. But let's start at the beginning. Tell me, how did you meet up with Henry?
Oh, people that know us are so sick of the story, but for your listeners, it's probably a new story. So I will
Yes,
say
it
it
is.
again. We actually, when I was in high school, and I was living with my father, I used to go pretend I was going to sleep to get up for school. But then once he was sleeping, I'd sneak out of my house and go down the street to this bar, which really was easy to get into, even underage. I just stole my sister's license for the night, and you
Right.
know, and back then there wasn't a photo on it, and so I would sneak into this bar to go hear bands, and Henry was in one of the bands there. So I first got to know Henry way back when I was 15. And then honestly, over the years, we were constantly running into each other. Like, it didn't matter where we moved. I was in Jersey City once and I ran into him on the street when he was living around the corner and I didn't know it. So we just constantly seemed to collide. And clearly, Henry was in so many bands. And for one reason or another, he always seemed to quit them. He was never happy with anything he was in. And we've been in this band for 14 years. And I think that's because he finally found the thing that allowed him to be creative, because he's an amazing talent. And I mean, some of the riffs that he can come up with are just absolutely amazing. And we harmonize so well together. It just
Yeah.
feels like it was meant to be, a band. We were always meant to do this. I wish it happened 20 years ago, but it didn't. But we're going to make the best of it now.
I think you're right. He does have like a really good skill, especially when it comes to these riffs. A lot of the solo work on some of my favorite songs, he's in, and also I'm sure the melody lines he's had a prominent role in developing as well. I can tell you some of my favorite songs, like Crow-Haired Boys. Would you not miss me? I like the little 80s guitar jangle there.
Yeah.
When We Were in Love. Tell That Girl to Shut Up is a real fun song to listen to, as well. It's just got that hoppy beat to it. Room Without a View. And one of my favorite there, one of my favorites also is Narrow Hips. I love that song as well. So there's a lot of great stuff here. What I was going to ask is, since Henry was in a lot of different bands, is that where Crow-Haired Boys sort of came from? Because he was in a lot of bands with Crow-Haired Boys?
No.
Ah, okay. See, I'm
um,
glad I asked.
uh, Actually, that's more my background was more in New York City. I was very involved in
Mhm.
the art scene there. I was acting, I was a dancer. And so I hung out I modeled for this artist that his crowd was kind of like the Warhol crowd. So we were big club people. And, I was always in Danceteria, Pyramid. I
Mhm.
didn't like Limelight, but I was there. Those clubs that were back then in the 80s.
Right.
And
Right.
so all the guys would spend hours, spiking up their hair, dyeing it black, and the makeup and the eyeliner. And then in the morning, some of them had to, smooth it all down and put on their suit and tie and go to their 9 to 5 jobs. It's like you were one person at night and then you were another person by morning. And there was a lot of cocaine use back in those days just to
Yeah.
keep up to do the nightlife and then the day job. And so for my group of friends, it didn't turn out so good. That the whole drug scene got ugly, and what we used to call fun became some serious addiction problems for some people. And
Sure.
so it was like this whole thing of being a crow-haired boy and being a club boy, and just how beautiful they were at night in their leather and their
Right.
earrings and everything. And then you know uh it took a toll on people, and a lot of them ended up like once that life was over, it was just this 9 to 5, and that was gone. And very few of us survived that without some depression or, you
Sure.
know.
Yeah. That kind
So
of, that kind of thing can wreck your life,
yeah,
drug addiction and all that. But what songs, what songs related, like you mentioned that was from the club life, but what other songs are connected with an specific experience that you had growing up?
all of them.
All of them.
Even,
Okay.
honestly, even the cover songs that we ended up putting on the album just worked for the whole biographical nature of the album. Even Tell That Girl to Shut Up. Every girl can relate to that. And
Right.
then what was a Room Without a View, which is a song I've always wanted to do. But when the Smithereens first started out, I was bartending in this town called New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Right.
And the Smithereens basically kind of, I know Pat was from New York, but the other guys had a video store in New Brunswick. And so I knew them. I'm not going to say I knew them really well, but I mean, they were always playing in the clubs that I was in. I bartended in one that they came in, and
I was
I
lucky
knew
enough to
Pat.
meet, yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Pat before he passed on at one
Yeah.
of his shows and stuff. And also the song Room Without View also reminds me similar to another song they did, which is the house we used to live in.
Right. It's a
Very kind of,
signature sound.
yeah, same sound, yeah. But
Yeah.
great song too.
I was just floored when we that song started out in one studio that ended up in House of
Hmm.
Vibes. And
Wow.
so Kurt Roth from the Gripweeds was,
Yep.
producing us. And he said, and we thought we had the song finished. And he said, Jim asked me, why did Cyndi ask me to play on this? And I went, I never thought that he would want to. I mean, I saw us as this little band,
Right.
and and the Smithereens to me were just this iconic, band that I was, geeky and fan like about. And
Right.
so I'm like, well, okay. And I went there when Jim recorded that lead, and it was just surreal. That's all. The only word that comes to mind is surreal. To
Wow.
watch him playing on our cover of their song, and just the fact that he even liked what we did on it was no, it was just surreal.
Wow, that's cool. So tell me also a little about another, like one of my favorite songs there, Narrow Hips. I guess Michael Giblin from Splitscott worked with you on that one as well. So how did he get involved?
Michael played bass with us for a while, but we had before he started playing bass with us. We used to open up for Split Squad sometimes. I got to know Michael on Facebook, and I needed someone to fill in on bass, and he actually came in as a fill-in and ended up there for 3 years. And so we started recording at Red Tuck Studios, which is his studio. The problem was it's 3 hours away. So for us to record, we had to stay overnight at hotels, and it became costly for us that way.
Right.
It just was tough to get everybody on board to be away, and not be able to get back home for a weekend or whatever. And so Narrow Hips is Narrow Hips is about my obsession with guys that have like boy hips. I just love that. And so all my boyfriends, and I haven't had that many, but all my boyfriends in my life have had some similar Mick Jagger traits and characteristics. That was one of them. And so I thought it was a cute song when I wrote it. It wasn't meant to be, overly dirty or anything like that, just something cute. And I found this girl who just was fresh out of animation school.
Right.
And so I said, hey, you want to do a music video? Like that might just be like a nice thing to have on your resume. And I don't know if you've seen that video on YouTube, but it's adorable.
Well, it's going to be linked below. It's going to be linked below. So you're going to see it.
She did such a wonderful, wonderful job on that video. I urge everybody to go and see it. It's so adorable.
Great. Excellent. So, I mean, I do hear in your influences when you're singing, little Joan Jett, little Patti Smith, but who are your biggest influencers as far as a singer and songwriter?
Patti Smith, for one,
Yeah.
because I was a poet, a band before I was ever in the Cynz. And I toured around actually as a poet with a band. And Joan Jett. And I also absolutely love, oh gosh, I can't believe I just drew a blank. I can't, what, the Distillers. What's her name from the Distillers?
Oh,
Brody Dow.
okay. Yeah, Brody.
Dow.
Yep.
I loved Courtney Love. Say what you want, say what you want. Aside from her personal life, what an album Hole put out. That was such a wonderful album. I kind of geared more towards the punk sounds.
Like X.
Loved X.
Yeah.
Loved Susie and the Banshees.
Oh,
I like stuff that was edgy. And Henry is more of like a 60s guy where his influences are more, like the Byrds and blues and he's got a vast amount of influences, but he's more into like the pretty sounds, and I'm more into like the aggressive sounds.
Right.
And I think when you combine us together, the obvious result is what you get on this album.
Nice. Well, it is unique, and I do love the dichotomy of the punky hard rock sounds and the melodic guitar along with it. So it works for sure. Tell me a little bit. You've been before the Cynz really came out with this album. You're doing a lot of EPs over the course of the year. So how long did this album really take to make?
We only have one EP, actually, Five Mortal Sins. We have 5 albums out. This is our first album on Gen. So this is actually our 5th album. This was the longest album that we've ever made because we started at Red Chuck Studios, and then we ended up going over to House of Vibes, which is 5 minutes from my house and in the town I grew up in.
Oh,
and
perfect.
It's actually 2 blocks from the house I grew up in. And I think Marty from Gem, the president of Gem, I think he just felt that the songs were good, but I think he had a sound in mind that he really thought Kurt could be better at giving us. Michael's a wonderful producer, and we put out the album before that, Karmic Destiny, was produced by Michael. Michael does give us an edgier sound. I think that what Marty wanted was more of in keeping with the sound that Gem is known for, which is more of the power pop sound.
The melodic sound, the melodic rock.
Right. Henry and I always had a lot of harmonies in our songs. But I think that this album is probably our best work. It's kind of a combination of a lot of different influences. We had several different people playing on it. We had Tommy Christich from the Jelly Bricks. Michael Giblin sang on some of the songs. Right. Kurt sang on some of the songs in the background. So it's really like a beautiful mix of different people and styles, and it just came together right.
Well, it definitely did. And tell me, just as a follow-up for a sort of a final question would be, what's next? Are you still writing new songs together? Because you got to follow this one up. I'm thinking, you just can't let this one sit out there too long. You got to follow this one up.
I always was ready to record the next album. Our albums in general usually took us about 6 months to make. This one took us 2 years. And I kind of don't like 2 years going by before we release new albums. So I've already been writing with Henry because this album was actually finished in December, and it was put out by Gem at the end of March because there were other acts that had albums out ready to
Right.
go before us. And so we have about 8 or 9 songs that were already, in the works right now. Some of them are finished, some of them are still, there's still skeletons waiting to solidify and come together more.
Sure.
But we have more songs that we could write and have written that could be put on 3 albums at this point.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
So you got a lot of great material.
They change so much by the time they're recorded.
Right. Perfect. Well, thank you, Cyndi Dawson. Appreciate the time. Love the album. Little Girl Lost, right?
Little Miss Lost.
Little Miss Lost.
But you're the 5th person who called it Little Girl Lost. I think it just slips off the tongue better, maybe.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it's kind of a take on the Little Miss books. There's
Right.
Little Miss Embarrassed, Little Miss Happy, Little,
Right.
So I did a Little Miss Lost, but everybody calls it Little Girl Lost. It's amazing.
Well, this makes me Mr. Happy. So there you go. Appreciate the interview. Thanks so much. And we'll look forward to seeing and hearing more from you in the upcoming weeks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.